I'm going to record you, actually, so thank you for that. Of course, my dog starts barking. Thank you for taking the time to talk. I appreciate it. So, yes, I'm writing a couple of stories for the appeal, sort of leading up to the primaries. And so now I wanted to talk with you about two areas that Krasner made some changes, and to see sort of like how you're going to deal with those issues. So the two areas are probation and drug possession. So in the first case, probation, Krasner has reduced the supervised population by about half by giving much shorter tails on sentences, and then also just really expediting the early termination process. So, yeah, I just kind of wanted your stance on how probation fits into your vision of community safety and, justice and whatnot, and if you would sort of keep with that style of imposing it.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I think what has made me successful as a district attorney, and it goes back to how I was raised. I was raised in New York in the, late 60s, early 70s, and my family owned a grocery store. So I witnessed a lot of violence in terms of burglaries and robberies at my store at knife point, gun point. And what was big then that my mother really stressed was not using drugs. I mean, heroin was rampant at that time. And, a lot of guys that I grew up with were really smart guys. I went to school with them. They were smart. They were talented. But they were eaten up, with the drugs. What saved me was my mother, her strong work ethic, and the fact that all hands were on deck and working in the store. And as we worked in the store and we saw people that were trying to steal, we saw they were stealing because they were feeding a habit. And what really, I always remember, I think I was about 11, one of the older guys that was our baseball coach, and, he liked my sister, who was much older than me. I saw him do a purse snatch. And I'll never forget it, because that lady fell, and he was hiding from the cops. And when I was walking home, he was hiding. And he told me, he says, "Look at me, I can't stop. Don't use drugs. I'm a monster now." And I always remember that because, as an assistant district attorney, I saw a lot of guys that reminded me of guys that were smart. They were talented, but the streets ate them up. The drugs, they're not bad people. It's that this poison that they have to take, just to control their lives. So with probation, I see and I've heard arguments both ways of a long probation, and now the current policy is short probation. But what I see lacking, being there every day in the front lines, was nobody gives them any direction. They say, here's probation, go figure it out. And that's wrong. I mean, when you're at that lowest point and you've been convicted, you're on probation, you're asking for help. Because we can't look at that person as just a criminal. I mean, we can't judge someone from one bad act. You live a good life and you do one mistake, and suddenly you're labeled with that scarlet letter on you. I think what I want to institute what I call the Learn and Earn program, which is this. When you're on probation, I put certain challenges that you need to meet, which is if you're drug addicted, you get drug counseling. You get clean and sober. People, places, things, remove them from that area. Or if you have mental health issues, make sure you're taking your meds. After that, you take parenting classes, anger management classes. And when you achieve those goals, then, you get your GED, associates, vocational training. And finally, when you get that job, and I mean a paying job that you're a taxpayer, you're a different person. I would terminate that probation. Because when you came in, you're at your lowest point. You're looking in the mirror saying, I'm unworthy. Look at what I've become. But when you achieve all those objectives that I've given you a path to success, when you get that job and you achieved everything, you're now thinking to yourself, I'm special. I'm back on track. I'm somebody. And it reminds me of a judge, Tamara Myers-Clark, years ago. Whenever her probationers got their GED, they were brought into court. We would buy a cake and actually celebrate. And it meant the world to them because suddenly they realized, yes, you appreciate this. I'm special. I'm somebody. So I think that's what I would do is a short probation isn't helping you. You need a roadmap to success. I had to extend that hand saying, listen, I can help you and you can do this because I believe in you.
And what would you say to the argument that all of the conditions of probation make it harder for someone to get a job and to sort of live their lives because they have to keep on reporting, and it sort of sets them up for failure?
Well, the thing is, once again, talking about what I had to do, and my life wasn't easy. I mean, I remember growing up with no electricity, eating a plate of white rice and a fried egg, going, oh my God, we're in trouble now. Life is hard. There are challenges you face. Now, with that said, you're on probation. The probation department needs to really assess what the needs are of that probationer. You see, I think what it is people are doing this one size fits all. And that's wrong. We have to have a sense of compassion with these people. Every probationer has a different need. They didn't commit a crime because they're evil. They committed a crime because of certain circumstances. What I always say is a good person who had a bad day. So what I would say is they have to, when they assess it, and assess it along with the district attorney's office, and also oftentimes with the public defender's office, who can avail us to a lot of services, and determine what are the needs of that person. Not stringent obstacles that hold someone back, but what can we do to lead them to success? So if it's, making sure that person is going through their drug counseling, well, that's important. Making sure that person is getting the meds and have mental health issues, that's fine. Or if they have lack of job skills, instituting a program like that we make them successful, because the part of probation, I think, is not to punish you or to burden you, but to show you that there are opportunities and, paving the way that, think of this, think of that, these programs that are available, and opening the door to avail them of these things. Because I think the biggest thing is this, not to put someone in probation. No, I want to divert you in a program that leads you to success. That way you don't get probation.
Gotcha. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And then what do you think about the other part of it, about early termination if someone is doing well?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why my Learn and Earn program, which with each step, and I'll start from the beginning, you get clean and sober. You take your meds, I'm reducing your probation. When you get your GED or associates, I'm reducing your probation. When you get those parenting classes, because people always forget, a probation is usually a mother or a dad, and those children are affected. So when you take those parenting classes, anger management classes, I reduce your probation again. And finally, when you get that paycheck job, that you say, look, I'm paying taxes to build roads and to put into our school, I terminate that probation. So basically, I've always said, I'll give you a roadmap to success. I'll give you a roadmap that I know you were in a dark place. You made a bad decision, but I have compassion. I believe in you. And that belief says this, when you show me with pride, I've got a job, I terminate that probation, because that person who entered the program is not that person now. They're a citizen with dignity, self-respect, and pride. And I have to reward that, those achievements, to say, yes, you did it. You're back on track. I think that's what's so special, because it reminds me growing up. The guys I went to school with were smarter than me, could play sports. They had so many dreams. They could make so many achievements, but the streets ate them up, and the system didn't tell them, this is what you can do better. So I think living that, knowing them, and the reason I'm doing this and became a DA so long was I thought giving back for all the guys who didn't make it, for all the guys who suffered from this injustice. I can be there to be a voice for victims, but also to show compassion to people that say, you're not evil, you're not a criminal, you're a guy who did something wrong, and we can fix this. You can be redeemed. So I think that's very important.
Okay. And then, tell me if this is too nitty-gritty, but so talking with the defender, they said one of the big differences under this administration in terms of early termination was simply that there was a DA that's their sole job is to review petitions for early termination. Could you see yourself devoting that kind of resource to this?
Okay. Well, I don't understand whether the PD is complaining about it or what. I don't understand.
No. They're saying this is great. They've been trying to do this for years, and now it's just going much smoother. It's going much quicker because there's someone at the DA's office. So the defender is saying it's going much quicker because there's someone at the DA's office who's like the point person.
Okay. Well, the thing is, which I see, it's a good thought. It's making progress, but I don't think it's going far enough. What I would have is not one person reviewing this because they're overwhelmed with that, and then suddenly they're just a rubber stamp. You really need a unit with several attorneys, and I'm talking about seasoned attorneys, not rookies straight out of law school. I mean, because you have to be able to say, okay, this person has these issues, this person has this other, or this person just doesn't want to change. So you need a seasoned attorney for at least 5 years, 6 years experience who've been in the courtroom, who have seen what's going on in the courtroom, seen what's wrong, what's correct, and also who has a relationship with certain attorneys and public defenders. I mean, I myself, there are lawyers that you respect on the other side that when they say, listen, my guy needs a break, you got to look at this a little harder, that you respect them. So you need lawyers with that rapport to look at those petitions for early parole, early termination, with a proper eye of being competent and also compassionate, and also having a good relationship with those attorneys. Because sometimes I see there's an adversarial system, and it's not that. I think we should all be working for the same goal, which is justice and making people whole again. Both to be that victims and be those people who have missteps and commit crime, but they're not evil. They're just people who made a wrong choice at the lowest point in their lives. So we have to enhance that. But I don't think we should rubber stamp that. We really have to deal with these individuals on a case-by-case basis, and that's what I see lacking. You paint all these people with the same brush. These are individuals. They're human with different problems, different needs, and we have to address those.
Gotcha. Okay. And then those were my questions about probation. Do you think there's anything else in that area we should talk about?
Well, I think the big issue is I would love to institute, because being in the courtroom 35 years and having the respect of the judges and defense attorneys, the fact that actual defendants would ask me to speak to them, that the parents would come to me and say, Carlos, what does this mean? What happened to my son? You need a DA with compassion who knows both sides and realize I represent everyone, not just the victim, but also that mother whose child made a misstep. And I think what's important, the first step is that Learn and Earn program that deals with the issue of probation. Also, a lot of issues, I think, with drug addiction. There's also a program which is the JET program, which I would divert, has nothing to do with probation, but I want to put people in programs before they're on probation, and using an example which is underutilized. There's a program for people who sell drugs, and they're not drug addicted. They're selling drugs because they need to make ends meet. And that program can be so successful in that they get counseling. These people are talented, but they just don't have the skills to get jobs or know that they can get these jobs. And also know the fact that getting a criminal record will deter them from getting proper, good-paying jobs. So we need to divert people in those programs before there's probation. I would love, ideally, that the probation doesn't exist because we have all these diversionary programs to really help these people.
Gotcha. Well, that is a great segue to the next topic, which is drug possession. How would you treat those cases?
Well, drug possession is exactly what it is. When you're possessing drugs, it's once again, you can't paint it with the same brush. Society is changing. When I grew up, heroin was so rampant. Guys were dying of overdoses. They were stealing, burglarizing, robbing. Okay? And that's one type of drug. But we see we've progressed in terms of our views of marijuana. and how there's been a movement throughout the country to legalize marijuana, and people talking about the health benefits of marijuana. Also, there are people who say, look, smoking a joint is like having a beer. So society has changed, and I think prosecutors, the office, the judicial system has to move with the times and be aware that what worked or what was wrong in yesteryear is not really a problem now. So what I say is, like, let's say a guy gets caught with a nickel bag or a couple. You're going to destroy their lives for that? No. They're doing what college kids do, or what an adult wants to go home and relax, as opposed to a beer, they're smoking a joint. But then there are issues of the opioid crisis, which are devastating our youth, which is frightening that you see these, and meth and other drugs that are destroying lives. So when you get a case of possession with that type of heavy drug, and you see that it's going to destroy their lives, okay? Well, there has to be some intervention to bring some help and counseling, and that's where diversion comes in. And once again, I say, I'm not going to give them a criminal record. That's a drug that can take a hold of you. I've seen it. I've seen it growing up. I've seen the violence and the devastation it causes, ripping apart a community. So no, I'm not going to give that person possessing that opioid a criminal record. I want to help them and say, listen, this is going to lead to worse things. We have to address this issue. Why are you doing it? Do you understand that you're going to get physically, mentally addicted to this thing, and it's going to lead you to this point in your life that you don't want to know about? And I think, once again, those programs need to go. There's a difference between a joint. There's a difference between taking heroin. Those are two different worlds. And what bothers me is, it's a talking point of painting everything with the same brush. And once again, they're individuals. These are people that you deal with compassion, and you deal with them on a case-by-case basis of what drug do they have? Why do they have it? And is it going to affect their lives in a way that is going to devastate them and devastate our community?
So, am I hearing that you will not prosecute drug possession?
You see, with that question, once again, I say you're generalizing drug possession. Possession of marijuana is one thing. Possession of heroin is another. And
forget marijuana.
Okay, no. When I'm talking about prosecution is this. When someone has heroin, I would institute diversionary programs. Do you understand? So prosecuting is my going after you, giving you a criminal record, put you on probation or jail. No. If you're caught with a drug that I believe is going to destroy your life, lead you to a dark place, and also affect the community, I'm going to put you in a program. And once you complete that program, get the help you need, the counseling you need, I drop the charges. I seal that record. You have no record. So no, it's not prosecuting drug possession. It's getting counseling and diversion for that possession of drugs that I believe could harm that individual as opposed to helping them. I mean, the parents are all complaining. You see it in the news every day. The opioid crisis. Our children are dying in record numbers now.
Yeah. This is much more of a progressive stance than I thought you might have. It sounds actually pretty similar to Krasner, but I don't know if you're following. I mean, the way he's been dealing with it, he has sort of similar stance, and it's just that everything was so backlogged, and there weren't enough diversion programs. There weren't enough resources to have that all go through the courts or the defender's office, and so they kind of took it into their own hands, and they're just kind of not charging if anyone can just show them that they've taken steps, be that starting to attend NA meetings or...
Well, the problem is this, and I've seen it when I was in the DA's office as opposed to now. When a person would enter a program, they would come back to court, bring in what program they were in. The district attorney's office would verify that they were in fact in that program, and then keep tabs they were still participating in that program. What I see now is happening, they come in with a form saying, I'm entering this program. And a lot of people, when they're drug addicted, they'll bring a forgery. There is no checking that they are in fact in a program or not. And then just letting that person go. And that is the road to devastation. I mean, these people are, they're addicted to drugs, and they're going to do what they can to avoid having to go to a program. So I think to say there's a backlog is outrageous, okay? To say that you don't check on them to make sure they're okay, it is wrong. I think we need to take the time and say, no, this is not a factory, and I'm going to let them out just because there's a backlog. No, work longer hours. Have night court if you have to do it. Have court on a Saturday. I don't care, but we have to help these people, to say, okay, well, I'm going to drop the charge. You'll be okay. And then they die of an overdose a week later. They don't deserve that. That parent doesn't deserve to bury their child. So, no, I don't use the excuse of a backlog. I mean, there are court systems in New York where they have night court. We can do those kind of programs and work, from 5 to 9, 6 to midnight. It's done in New York. It's done in other cities. So, no, I will not let people, I'm not going to turn my back on people just because it's inconvenient or there are too many cases. No, they don't deserve that. I'm a public servant. And, when I see those people, I see the guys I grew up with. I see the potential. Like, I worry about my children. I'm a single dad. I'm raising 2 children. My son's 17. I talk about drugs all the time. My biggest fear is that he become addicted to drugs because I won't be able to save him. And if I can't save him, I would hope that the DA's office would say, listen, I'm going to put you in this program and I'm going to save you for your father. So I'm living that fear as a parent, living that fear that my children are that age, that the kids are being lured and tricked into using drugs that will destroy them. I mean, I see so many young kids with so much promise. They rule the world. They're our future. And then when I see the drugs consuming them, and I saw it happen as a kid, growing up with the violence and what the drugs had done creating that violence, I cannot stand by and let that happen. We can save them. But once again, one size does not fit all. And to say I'm just going to let them go because there's a backlog is at least irresponsible. It's shameful and sinful. It's my job to save them because they're all someone's child or they're someone's father or daughter.
So you're saying that then you would want people to go through like the formal diversion programs that are monitored by the court. Is that right?
Absolutely. If they have a harmful drug, okay, and we know what they are, and and you said let's take away marijuana. Absolutely, let's take that away. But heroin, crack, no, that leads to, and it leads to violence. It leads to destruction of a neighborhood. It leads to young women becoming prostitutes. It's horrible. So no, I can't say, okay, well, it's only a little bit, you can go. No, I have to assess you. I have to address that. We got to see why. Because you don't go from, walking down the street and suddenly saying, I want to use heroin. There has been a problem there, and you got caught with it, and I'm going to help you.
Okay. And, sorry to linger on this point, so I make sure I have everything as you want it presented. So the backlog wasn't only with the DA's office, it was like in the police office, like even just getting samples tested so that they could tell if it actually was heroin or whatever before someone could even, have a hearing. That process was very backlogged, and so people would sort of linger before they could be assessed. Would that factor into your thinking?
Well, the thing is, and when you talk about a backlog and everything, is this, and I can, as a district attorney, cure all the ills. We have to go to the mayor, city council to say we need the funding to have more chemists to resolve this issue. Because the police department is not the chem lab. I think I have to work with other agencies, and I mean with the federal government, with the state government, because I want funding. So I'll ask the mayor, city council, I need more money to address this. I'll go to the federal government, and I'll go to the attorney general's office, because these programs need to be funding. I would also reach out to private industry. They have money. This city is growing. They want jobs. They want opportunity. So I would reach to the business community saying, hey, give us some money for these programs and to deal with this. I mean, in terms of them languishing, well, if it's going to take some time, they get a subpoena and come back 6 months later. They don't have a record, okay? And then they can come back when we assess what that drug is. And if it's a drug that is going to harm them, then we have to address that issue, be confident with the public defender's office, because I've dealt with them a lot of times where they go, yes, this person has a definite drug problem. I think this person needs inpatient treatment, or outpatient is sufficient, or just counseling. Remember, one size does not fit all. Everyone has a different need. Some we could address with just telling them to go to, AA or Narcotics Anonymous. Others need to have some outpatient, some inpatient. And after we address those needs, and we make sure they don't become addicted to that problem and cause crime because of that addiction, I will seal their record. Because it's not about putting people on probation, giving people criminal records. No, that's not my job. My job is to make communities safe and make people safe. And that person who has that drug is a person I represent, that I want to help, because they're victimized by that drug.
Gotcha. So sort of giving like a good process to be like, can this person go home on their own recognizance, or, like...
Oh, absolutely. No, if someone's, in possession, they shouldn't be in jail, sitting in jail waiting for those results. That's irresponsible. No, there's no bail, no cash bail. They go home, and when we have everything that we need, and they talk to their attorneys, and oftentimes it's the public defender who has the funding and the know-how with dealing with these issues. They sit down with the DA's office and go, we've assessed them, these are the needs that we have. And we put them in the programs that they need. When they're successful, we seal that record. They don't have a record. My job is not to give a person a record. I want them to be productive members of society. I don't want them to be behind the 8 ball and not be able to get a job.
All right. Okay. So it sounds like you guys aren't all that different on this front either, except for you, I think, are advocating for more, for the court-sponsored diversion programs. All right. Is there anything else that you want to say about drug possession?
Well, the thing is, growing up in New York, and heroin was the drug of choice, I saw it on both ends. I saw it being afraid of my parents being hurt, my parents being killed. I've seen it in the court system also. But I also see the devastation of my friends, of my community, of people that, young women and young men that had all the promise in the world, that because of that drug out there, and being tricked into using it for whatever reasons, became addicted to drugs, and they went off the rails and destroyed their lives and caused violence in my community. I think these people are special. They're just like me. I was just lucky. That's what I say. I mean, maybe my mother loved me a little more, or hugged me a little more, or maybe I was afraid or whatever. But I saw the devastation, and that's why I never use drugs and I don't drink. But those were my friends, and that's why I do this, and I feel so strongly, because of all my friends who didn't make it, who died of overdoses or ended up in jail or getting killed, I owe it to them, because I played baseball with them. I went to school with them. We laughed and ran around together. So for all those guys and girls that were my friends and didn't make it, I'm here to say, I don't want to let it happen to someone else. I'm going to save as many people as I can.
Gotcha. Great. Well, yeah, I don't think I need to take any more of your time. Is it okay if I get back in touch by follow-up questions as I'm writing?
Definitely.
Well, first you have to tell me, what kind of dog do you have?
Oh, he's a little terrier. Some sort of mix. I'm not sure. He was a rescue. He is hyper.
Because we're being interviewed by car because my husky was getting a little frisky and he was going to start barking and you wouldn't hear me. So those terriers are a handful. So, well, yeah. Call Trevor, and I love talking to you, and I really like being a voice because my whole career has been public service because where I come from, as a parent. I worry so much about my children and their friends. And, I just, kids are wonderful. They're our future. And, and that's why I do this. And, if you have another question, absolutely call Trevor. And, absolutely, I can talk to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, you have a good night.
Thanks,
You
Maura.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.